Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Start is Near, episode 12. And we have quite a gathering today. I'm super happy, super excited to see everyone. I'm going to pass the feather to Hope and or Sienna, who's ever ready to go first and tell us what's new and exciting. And then we'll take it from there.
I'm always going to defer to Hope, so hopefully you want to go first, Hope.
Oh, I was hoping you'd go first, but isn't this lovely? Like two people sharing the mic and giving each other a chance. I don't think anything I could say will be more profound than Sienna. She probably has a phenomenal updates. For me, it's just being consistent with the things that we're already doing so that they can come to fruition and kind of take those things that have been on our hearts and minds and making them reality. So that's kind of like what I've been up to for the past couple of days. And I don't want to take too much more of you guys' time. If you guys ever want to talk about it, we could definitely talk about it. But I just want to
we're
say
just starting.
that,
Don't worry. You let me kind of move the mic around, or the feather, as we said. But you've got this.
yeah, absolutely. But I'm just really excited because I do think, as although that there's still that energy of people that are angst, people that are frustrated, people that are confused, people that are lost, there's still also this huge momentum of gathering of people who have been thinking about things for quite some time and then are starting to be able to be in a place to be able to have the resources. And then it's just about everyone kind of magnetically gathering together so that these things get implemented in real time. And I think that momentum is like just building so high that words wouldn't be able to express the excitement with that. So I just want to welcome everybody to a new week and a new moment where we're all making extraordinary things happen. And it's a pleasure to be amongst everyone that's listening and everyone that's here with us today. You have my heart, you have my love.
Jamie, my friend, do you want to say anything before I pass it to Sienna?
No, pass it to Sienna, and just echoing everything Hope just said.
I would love to get just you guys have been on this call leading up to this recorded space, right? Could
Yes,
I maybe just get like a little I don't know, just a 2-minute overview on what you guys have been discussing? I feel like I'm kind of coming in not exactly positive what's been discussed, so I just want to make sure I'm in line with things.
I'm going to yield to Doc time on that one.
Okay. What we've basically been doing is saying hello and having the pre-show tailgate party where we're talking about different things that are possible. I'm a chemist. My background is in group theory, and I watched last week's 2-hour episode and took 5 pages of notes. Group theory works great in chemistry. It's how you can tell the shape of molecules made up of different atoms. But in sociochemistry, the group theory is taking size of group and trying to make it flow best and having group function come out from smaller groups to bigger groups, as opposed to the way it works now where everything is top down. So we're all humans. We all deserve to have a say. This is a human scale group. There's 13 people in the room. So using Fibonacci, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, this would be a 7th level first order human scale group. But over the course of time, I can take all sorts of groups and translate them in Fibonacci terms, and we can watch growth happen as nature grows, just organically. So
Love
that's
that.
what I'm doing here. That's a quick update on where we were.
I love that. Thank you. It's interesting. literally just walked in the door moments ago, so apologies for looking kind of rushed and harried, but
Oh, Sienna, you're beautiful. Relax.
you're very sweet. My mom, who is 75 and has Alzheimer's, was asking me, because I said, I've got this call at 3, and she asks a lot of questions. Sometimes she'll ask the questions over and over again. But it's interesting, Doc, that you were just, the way you laid that out was basically, it's very similar to the way I was laying it out to her. She's like, well, how do you know if there are so many people in so many different communities right now? And she's like, well, what are the conversations? I said, well, there are different conversations at each community, but I'm kind of trying to scrape each community that I'm in and identify the people who might, resonate with one another in these smaller, in just the smaller groups. But I like the flow of the group, because what Hope was mentioning earlier in an X post was the idea of the educational model. And somebody had jumped in and basically said, if you could break down each grade into kind of 4 different separate clusters based on the way the child learns, the way they process information, and it just, the flow will just automatically become more even. So I love everything you just said. As far as where any updates I have from last week, I have been trying to, and I know it sounds, completely opposite of what's going on here, but host spaces on X. The first one was a musical space, and I think I mentioned it last night, but it was trying to bring people in, and it did, from all over the world, kind of with a shared message of unity over message over creativity. And it was really moving. I mean, several people cried on the space. They were able to get out of like their comfort zone, get out of their shell, and kind of experience a new sense of being. That's the only way I can maybe sum it up. And then on Sunday, I hosted another space on holistic wellness and homeostasis. And the whole topic was basically, and there were hundreds of people on this call. It's basically, how can we, as a collective, start kind of creating maybe viral memes. And I mentioned, I know I come back to this a lot, but it's just, it's something I'm really passionate about, that they using art, using movement, using music to kind of help people evoke a certain feeling, like a higher level of frequency. And I'm having lots of conversations with a lot of people who are, they understand it in concept. And, I'm really just trying to find people on X specifically who I can narrow down these concepts with, because most of them are artists or musicians. And I actually, know people who, like, one of them is an aerialist, which I don't know if I want to use her, but just using all these different components in one visual that will,
like a symphony or an orchestra or something.
Yeah, like a symphony or an orchestra, exactly. And it's kind of, I mean, to me, and I'm a simple person. I am not an educated person. Every person on this call is 10 times probably more educated.
I don't know. I put you up against some good company there, Sienna.
No, I have, I don't know. I just go based, I follow the breadcrumbs. That's all I do. I follow the breadcrumbs, but the breadcrumbs always appear. And the breadcrumbs that are appearing for me lately are how to kind of connect everybody. Because I mean, that's my background, is bringing people together and setting a certain tone. That's very significant to me, is setting a tone whereby people feel, non-judged, they feel heard, they feel seen, they feel like they matter. And honestly, if you can get to that, that basic emotion in people, then they will start thinking more clearly. It's just everything about it has a positive
There's
outcome.
physiological dividends absolutely to it. Hope
Yeah.
raised her hand, and
Yeah.
Lena, I saw your message in the chat. Sienna, sometimes people will post things in the chat, and just if you catch them, you can take that into the conversation. Hope, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't sure if Lena had a direct question, and if she did, I could probably go after Lena and then finish what I was going to say.
Lena, do you want to come up?
Oh yeah, I thank you for honoring me. I was just thinking about how beautiful that is, and that Sienna is creating those networks, and it sparked a lot because I'm not currently networking on X as an artist and a creator. I have really huge, like, problem issues with that platform. So Sienna, as a networker, if you were ever willing to have a conversation about it, possibly just like what you're doing more in person, I would love to hear more because you mentioned little details, but as a networker, yeah, I would love to connect. That's all.
Lena, I would say to you, I don't know when the last time you used it was. I mean, I was, it's really, I
Agnostic.
understand all your hesitations. I understand
Yeah.
all your hesitations, trust me. What I have found though, the first space I went on or Twitter, I guess at the time, was 2 years ago. And it was to talk to Andrew Yang. You know, he was a presidential candidate, and in 2020, I guess, I don't know, I've talked to him a few times, but to me, it was just so interesting that I could just jump on a space from the comfort of my own home and talk to somebody who, you know, the 2 previous times I'd spoken to him, you know, I had to travel to go see him, and then I'm just jumping on a call and having, I had like a 10-minute one-on-one conversation with Andrew Yang on an X space, and it's completely free and it's completely accessible to anybody who has the access to a phone and the platform. So, Lena, I would love to help you. I mean, I found like a family on there. Truly, it's like a family, the people
Yeah.
I'm really close with. And you really have to kind of navigate and
Yeah.
find them. It's kind of like going to a thrift store. I mean, you may find something really great, or you may just be walking
I-
around for 2 hours like there's nothing here.
I'm
So, go
I
ahead.
feel like I'm a good network within creative communities, and like I was building an Instagram presence and kind of Facebook, and there's a couple other creative based groups, and I want to branch out. So yeah, I'm a pretty sharp networker. Like I know um how to attract the people that I collectively want to work with. But yeah, I'm just hearing more and more. A lot of my friends are telling me as I grow in my work and projects at X that I need to make an account. And I'm just like, whoa, I heard it again. And
It's going to be,
scary.
the
So thank you.
everything.
So we
Yeah,
don't have to
everyone will wind up gravitating towards it eventually, just because it has changed so much just in the
Yeah.
last few months. And I'll point out, like, a week ago, if I was looking for a space to jump on, I don't typically just jump on random spaces. But if I was looking for a space, there may be 8 up in my my top Chiron feed. Um, just 2 days ago, I went to just randomly look for a space, and there were like 60. So just, it's like overnight. And I think there's a lot of reasoning for that, and it doesn't really matter so much, but people
No,
are
take your
starting
time
to
to explain it, Sienna,
understand.
if you want. This is part of the
Yeah.
conversation. You don't have to rush this part.
Okay.
Well-
Well, spaces in general, and I'm not trying to sell X. I'm not trying to sell it to anybody, but the algorithms that they are creating, I think, are the algorithms that have the potential to change the narrative for all of humanity, which is what we're trying to do. And that's why I'm just saying, just dip your toes in.
That actually alarms me, because what you just said is exactly why, as an artist and a creator, like I'm not jumping on, and I want to have more conversations before I do, because I feel like art and creativity is a really human driven process, and we can work with technology. I understand the technological field, but when there's a level of psychological like sway right, when we're dealing with social media and when we're dealing with the technological network spaces, the algorithm also creates this kind of feed where we're expected to be something. And I have a really intensely evolved right now body of work that I've been working on for a couple years, and I just have to be careful with how I network and to make sure that, you know, the algorithms don't sway me in a direction that will actually potentially hurt my content. And that's why for me right now, working directly with galleries, working directly with, you know, like first, and then once I'm more established, then networks like X and networks, but it's good to get curious for me already, so thank you. It's just project development is hard, and right now in this new sphere, and it changed overnight, so how are we supposed to, as creators, like, right, I have a lot of friends who do know, but then there's the people that are literally falling out, and the creators, and it's a certain creator base that is able to sustain in those networks, and that I know I have the power to sustain, but I'm like, do I want to, you know? So like, those are all we can have this conversation publicly or allow others. There's 3 hands up, so I'm gonna mute, but
No, no worries, Lena, you're good. And Sienna's got you when you're ready. And I would just say the same thing, like low and slow when you're ready. But Sienna and Hope have you. Hope, it's yours, and then pass it to Doc Time when you're ready.
Thank you so much. I definitely wanted to give them a chance to be able to have that beautiful flow. Thank you, Sienna, for I think it's exciting that you're doing the musical space and you're doing the homeostasis space. I'm bringing different people together. I've been talking to different people about the importance of memeing. I was talking with someone, one of my mutuals started memication, which is transforming the educational system through memes. And so basically making things like basic math and science and stuff like that more understandable, and also to get children more excited about these subject matters through memes. And he started a website with that, and because these things do go viral and they do hit the unconscious and the most long-lasting, profound ways. And so I think that is pretty cool that you were doing it. As far as like getting these artists together to be able to do like a symphony of these things, like you and Jamin deeply speak my mind, because that's what I was doing when I was designing Live Fest. That's a huge goal of it, is that bringing these different, it's not just the artists, because it'll be different categories, but like the way that they will function is it's hard because we're in a recorded space right now at the podcast. And so it's something we're gonna, I swear to you, you're going to be very excited around June when we really start getting the ground running and I really lay out the full design for you, because I think you're going to see that everything that you've been wanting to do, everything that Jamin's been wanting to do, this is exactly what we're going to be doing, and it's only the beginning. Even before
It's
they even
called The
register.
Start Is Near, right, Hope?
Exactly. Well, to me, the start isn't near. The start has already begun. The start took off a while ago. We're in the means of actually making things happen. And when you're actually making things happen, you're no longer starting, you're actually running the race. And and so that's what's really exciting. So I think we're already on the track. But I think you guys are going to be like really excited, because like even the registration, like before and normally like when people go to a conference, right, like people get their little tags, they get antiquated, they get their little bags, they find out where they're going to go. This is going to be unlike any of that, because it's all about human connection. It's all about unconscious vibing. It's all about getting into this place that we could start listening to each other, falling in love with each other as far as humanity, and really get into that place by using things like technology and art as like a merger of taking STEAM ideal to like the next level in these interactive, immersive uh, they're not even exhibits. You know, I don't even know how to describe it because it's not even a theme park and it's not South by Southwest. It's not Burning Man. There's no name for what we're building at Life Fest, but it's unlike anybody's ever experienced before. And I look forward to really going further into that, but it will be like really in June. I'm gonna get a couple of things taken off of the plate so I can like really like further dive in with you guys all. But and so I think I just wanted to kind of say that, not as like to advertise at this point, but as in to say you're not alone, and what you're building with your spaces is going to build up a momentum towards things that everybody here have been dreaming about for a very long time, and it's already starting to come into action. And so it's more of how exciting this is. It's more of to inspire and to know that you're not alone in that endeavor. That I'm sure there's like so many people in this room right now that is doing exactly what you're doing. And what is great is that we're not doing these things alone. We could see each other. It's not like, am I, there's 8+ billion. I'm probably not alone. It's, hey, we're all here together. And this is just the beginning of everyone else that's going to be coming together, a part of that, to really see the full scope of what's all being done.
This is just a long and complicated gamble to prove to my friends and family that I'm not crazy, right?
There you go. I kind of look at it as like, this is kind of like a follow-up meeting where we can check in with each other every week on what we're doing and get it,
You said it would take
like
4, yeah.
And then inspire everyone else that's out there that's watching to say, they're already a part of the party. They're already a part of the dynamics that's going to take humanity to the next level. And so that's why I say the start has already begun. We're in the middle. We're in it. We're in the thick of it. And you're going to start really feeling that momentum past meeting 3. And I look forward to, there's other hands here. I look forward to listening to everyone else's thoughts and getting to know what everyone else is working on and what we're going to do together.
Well, I know that Doc Time met you parasocially. Doc, did you lower your hand, or do you want to speak before I get back to Jamin here?
No, I'd like to speak, but why don't we go to Jamin and I'll speak after.
Understood.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to echo what Sienna said about, how to connect everybody. Let's just take that as the challenge, right? We've been connecting, in, various different ways on social media, tiny little groups and all that. But, the whole of us have yet to, connect in a way that is like totally inclusive. I've got a lot of hope for Twitter. But I just want to kind of look back over history at the great, revolutions, the French Revolution, the cultural revolutions of history, the Renaissance, and they all found a space to meet or places to meet, right? And that's where the action really started, whether, the 99% and what was the Wall Street thing called?
Occupy.
Thank you. Or the gay rights revolutions, et cetera, meeting in San Francisco. I mean, I'm very excited also about what Hope is talking about. Did you call it Life Fest? And I'm also super excited about the after parties, which we talked about last week, and I'd love to talk more about. And so, how do we bring all these different things together, or is that even the mission? Is it okay that we have a bunch of kind of quasi-fragmented, different media, different ways of coming together?
Jamin, I already know how to bring what you're doing with your after parties and bring that into how Life Fest, because Life Fest will be at the end of the year, and your thing will be more ongoing, and it's more of a build-up. So, and I also might be able to address some of the things on your reach out that might be more helpful too, with some of the people you wanted to connect with to do the after parties. So I do have thoughts with that. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted you to know that, and then I'll mute myself and let you finish. And then if you want later, we can talk about how I think that could come together and be executed.
Yeah, and by the way, I have no problem being interrupted. So interrupt away, because that was a very timely interjection. So please feel free to interject whenever. Uh, um, and I mean, you know, we've just in the last several weeks hit upon this concept of the after parties, and it seems so kind of perfect as a way of bringing people together where they already are, right? Basically, hey, hey Marco, your favorite person is throwing a party. Want to go? Well, of course you want to go, right? And that favorite person and whatever they broadcast on, whether they're a podcaster, a YouTuber, or whatever, it defines a context, right? And people don't follow movements; they follow leaders, and so it's taking people where they are with the leader they're already following and throwing them a party, right? In which they'll be able to do all kinds of amazing things, such as, for example, the things that this great Canadian Mark McCormick is working on with New World Spirit, Ever Living Meetings, etc., and myriad other ways of connecting. So think of an after party as kind of like there's this giant mansion with dozens of rooms, and it's all one party within that mansion. In other words, defined by that context, by that leader, and the topic space, etc. And you can go to myriad different rooms to have myriad different kinds of interactions with this audience that has suddenly become a community by virtue of the fact that we've just now organized a big all-inclusive party for that audience that can now become a community through the party. Anyway, just wanted to blurt out all those thoughts, and
I believe it's doc time after Jamin here, if you're ready.
Yeah. Go for it.
I want to caution everybody on growing to include everybody and getting so big and then finding that everybody's not on the same page. And in fact, everybody doesn't belong on the same page. And trying to get big groups of everybody on the same page is just going to frustrate people who want to be heard but don't want to listen. And most people these days don't want to listen. They're too stressed about what they're doing. So rather than focusing on group size, which gets unmanageable quickly, I think having the structure of what it means to change the world has so many open topics that have room for so many breakout meetings, but to capture what is said during meetings that can be amplified or thought about differently is one of the keys here. Because if we work with the system on how it's set up now, and not picking on you, Sienna, but using X to get everybody together, all we're doing is empowering the old system to be even more powerful over us. And it's
I'm going to disagree with you there, and I'll follow up after you finish.
okay. I feel that I do much better work on a small platform like Minds. But the fact is, I've been shadow banned on about 15 different platforms, and I just switch platform and go again. But as long as my voice can be kept from being heard on these platforms, I don't want any part of that platform. Okay.
I
Go
think
ahead,
that
Sienna.
might have
Go
been
ahead.
the old model. And again, I'm not trying to tell anybody to move over to X, but the beautiful thing about it is when you have a space, you can have very specific topics. And when Hope and I host a space, the topic tends to be so esoteric that, I mean, it's only a handful of people who are coming in. It's not like it's just open to, thousands of people. The spaces that I host on, say music or holistic health, homeostasis, things like that, will draw a lot, many more people. But when we're having very specific conversations, you can put up to 3 topics that you're discussing, and you can title the space, and it really narrows down the people who are coming in. And the people who don't resonate with what you're saying are not going to be there. And the people who jump on and maybe try to troll this space or do anything that's inappropriate, you can immediately bump them. So yeah, I would just give it another chance, maybe another look, because the best part about it is it is a free speech platform. And I don't, I think it's the biggest threat to humanity right now, because once we lose free speech, I mean, what else do we have? I mean, we are literally just working under the puppet masters. We're under their control. So that is kind of why I really started focusing on that. And, once I really started getting into the spaces, they're just exploding right now. They're exploding. And there's like celebrities who do spaces. There's politicians who do spaces. There's, just people who are just dying for attention who do spaces. And then there are people like Hope and I who have very small, specific spaces, and maybe 5 or 6 people will get on. Some of our spaces have been smaller than this, but the conversations we're having have I think what they do is create a ripple effect within just the people on the space, and then within our own bubbles. And I've noticed that if we have a conversation on a topic, the next day I'll see that spaces are then those spaces are elevated. It's just kind of like this happens, and then so on and so on and so on, and change begets change begets change. But anytime I discuss a specific topic, I'll notice that other people may just see a glance of it. I mean, I could talk about collective consciousness. So, I mean, I remember hosting a space on that a couple months ago, and then it was within the next week, everybody's talking about collective consciousness. So I think it's kind of like it's almost like a viral component to the conversations that other spaces then pick up on and expand upon. So that's all I want to say. I'm not so much disagreeing with because everybody has a subjective take on that, but I would maybe give it another chance, because I do see I always try to pay attention to trends, and my husband is he's a tech executive, so I've talked to him many times about this, and he doesn't want to be on X yet either, but he understands that what they're doing is going to be the way that everybody is doing things. So it's either going to be getting used to X now, and because they're changing the game overnight. They just are, and it's because Elon's at the top. So
Once
I don't know.
again, everybody being involved in everything is not a good thing. At least
Where did you get that from? What I just said, though? If I said that Hope and I have a space and there's 6 people on it, how is that everybody's involved in everything?
I just don't feel that Elon is a hero in life, and I do not buy into the idea that spaces like Facebook and X are the answer. I think the answer really, it is in the small groups, but I think it's in every platform, not us all jumping.
If I may, I don't think you guys are disagreeing, Doc Time.
Okay.
And I know that Sienna is focused on X at the moment, but as we know, and I think everyone here can think about how we diversify communication streams, it's just where the people are, I suppose, at the moment. But that doesn't mean we're limiting ourselves to just X. That wasn't the point, I don't think. Just if I may add that.
Yeah, like Life Fest, it literally is for all social medias to get a chance to come together and know each other, because so many people are separate. And they don't, and I do think we're going to have a year where things might be a little bit more intense on division and not understanding each other. And a lot, especially the younger generations, on social media, of all kinds of different social media. So this is about like creating an opportunity where people don't have to worry about choosing what platform that's right for them, but they could actually just learn more about what's out there and vibe with each other on all the kinds of different ways of communicating and interacting and connecting, however way that they kind of do it. And so it's like we'll have like portals to like each different thing, like Discord, TikTok, Meta, Instagram, Threads. Like, there's going to be something there for all of that, and even for those who actually who are not on social media and feel more in tune with nature and more filled with getting in touch with their communities in real life, and creating dynamics where people can do that so that people can still be human. Because I do think in a lot of ways, the new generation, they're maybe like a few years ago, they started kind of like having, before they made it to their second birthday, they had phones in their hands. Well, now we're going to have people that are going to have an Apple Pro Plus. They're going to be much more inundated, especially in the classroom and in other areas, completely virtual. And so to create dynamics where people can also understand different mediums, but also find different ways to connect with each other off platforms as well, and still keep that flavor of humanity and nature and world and beyond world scope. So I hear you. And I think that what you're both saying is beautiful. Sienna found X to be the place where it really solidifies for her, and it will be setting a precedence. The rest will catch up. And then also I hear you on saying, we get a lot of people get banned. They do feel frustrated where they might, have to go from platform to platform, or they don't really even feel in tune with being on any platform. And how do they operate? And that's, like, again, another reason to address those problems, why I thought it was so important to do LifeFest, which is Listen, Interact, Vibe, Evolve for every single technology social media conference. It's what you're both saying is both absolutely in tune. And I think you guys agree more than you guys realize right now. I think you guys are actually on the same page. And it's beautiful to watch you guys talk. So I'm going to mute myself so you guys can continue the conversation.
Thank you, Hope. Jamin, you are the host, technically, my friend. I know I'm doing the moderator job, but if you want to speak, go ahead, my friend.
Oh, no. There's nothing special about me. You are the moderator, so just keep playing quarterback.
Well, you and Victor have your hands up. I know Victor came in, but I think he's a very timely individual. So may I pass it to Victor then?
Absolutely.
Hey guys, great to see you. The bit that I was going to bring in was I was feeling gratitude, right, for being here now and for like having connected with many of you. And I wanted to share part of that gratitude extends to Twitter, because if it were not for Twitter, I would not have connected with Bobby Azarian. If I had not connected with Bobby Azarian, I would not have connected with Mike and Mark. If I had not connected with Mike and Mark, I would not have connected with Jamin and Lenny. Like, so all of this being here with you, like, I credit in some part to what Twitter makes possible.
Technically, I don't think without Bobby, any of us are here. I know that Doc Time and Cam and I knew each other different ways, but pretty much everything has fallen out of Bobby and then you and Brett. And I do want to add something to the recording for posterity here as well. So when we're asking how to like get this information out there and stuff, Victor and team are kind of the masterminds behind, or the mastermind behind the idea that we can take these audio conversations and we can generate blog posts. I know Doc Time, you were asking about this before, but we can like generate an output in real time almost in terms of the themes that have come up. So like it takes the whole audio recording and then analyzes that. There's images to that as well. I don't want to derail the conversation with that, but I do want to remind everyone that I think this is Victor's kind of first time that he's here in the moment right now that I've been here as well. So this is amazing. I mean, I can't make up this panel, Victor. So Jamin, with that, I will pass it back to you. And then I do want to know if Stan is ready to speak at some point, but Jamin, go ahead.
Okay, great. So first, just a couple of clarifications. I do not have the goal that get everybody on the same page. That's not my goal. Nor do I believe that everybody should be involved in everything. I actually believe kind of the opposite of both of those statements. I think that I believe in, and the big vision, and I think I share it with pretty much everyone here, correct me if I'm wrong, that humanity in conversation means you know, an unbounded number, probably in the millions or even tens of millions, of parallel conversations on the full gamut of all topics that are important. And so one person might just stay in their lane on a specific topic and kind of be a subject matter expert, or be pushing a specific agenda or whatever. That's great. Other people will be in totally different rooms talking about totally different things. Some people will be cross-pollinating across multiple rooms, and that's great. That's a very important form of glue and hyperconnectivity amongst all these different conversations. But I do absolutely believe in humanity in conversation, and I believe that after parties are going to be a fantastic vehicle, one of many, to get people in conversation with each other. And on that note, Sienna, I'd love to hear from you about spaces. My understanding is, there's the full spectrum of sizes of spaces. You've got tens of thousands of people, listening in on a certain space.
Elon has pulled off about 18,000, Jamin. That's kind of the high water mark.
Okay, I thought there were some with a lot more.
No, it's maybe Sienna can correct me, but I think that the
Yeah,
highest is
I
like clearing
think
20,000 or something.
no, I think there were a couple that had more than that. And it was specific. I think like the Ron DeSantis one.
Right.
I can Google it, but
Vivek
yeah,
as well. Yeah, it's
yeah,
not necessarily. Yeah, go ahead, Sienna.
Yeah, but yeah, the Elon one that happened last week that caused a big stir, and then it just kind of got swept under the rug, which is very strange to me, because it was such a significant conversation, I think. But yeah, so I've been on spaces where it's just two people, and actually, I mean, I remember having probably a 3-hour conversation just one-on-one with someone, and we had an open space. Any person on X could have jumped in, but I think our topic was so specific that nobody else was even interested. I mean, people would pop in for a second and then pop right back out. But yeah, it's they're making it so that you can kind of tailor it very, very specifically to whatever your goal is. So yeah, I think it's a really good networking site. I've never considered myself so much a networker. I just always had a specific job to do, and whatever it took to get that done, I would do that. But the people I've met on X, I mean, it's tremendous. I've actually spent weeks at a time with people I've met on X over the last couple of years on Spaces, and they have become my family. I mean, it's some of the deepest thinkers I've ever encountered are just random people who've jumped into my spaces or I've jumped into theirs. When I was mentioning last night about shaman and Reiki masters, and I don't know if anybody's experience with people of that type in here, but they receive information of the highest nature, and they know what to do with it. They know what to do with it in relation to the human body, the human psyche, the soul. I mean, just the whole connection. It's a very holistic approach to how to reach homeostasis. Homeostasis is going to be one of my main words, in every conversation, because the closer human beings are to attaining a state of homeostasis, the greater the chances are that they will start questioning, things that they wouldn't have questioned. They will start, going in new directions, maybe having more confidence and being part of bigger parts of communities. I mean, I think the benefits of things like that they're endless. Because to me, homeostasis comes from a sense of belonging, a sense of being respected and heard, and I mean, truly, like, loved unconditionally, forgiven unconditionally. And you get that in a sense of community with shared beliefs, shared values, shared interest. And that's what I mean. And again, it sounds like a big sales pitch, but I started out there 2 years ago and was on all kinds of silly spaces, but it's like, there could be 200 people on the space and one person stood out to me. Doc, that's the kind of thing. So you know, we would have like a direct conversation, and then, you know, then we're like lifelong friends basically. And then maybe it'll be 2 months more before I resonate with one or two people on a space. But those people are now the people I, you know, I contact every day. You know, I have direct conversations with people about very, very interesting and obscure topics. And they're all just people who, you know, I mean, you know, when you resonate with someone, even on this space, if there's 13 of us, there's going to be one or two who really like, oh, I really, you know, I'd like to have a further conversation with that person. You know,
Sienna,
so
just to add to that too, it's the strength of weak ties, right? Which is evident right here. All of these, I mean, you're not weak ties, and that's not an insult to anyone here. It's the idea of the strength of weak ties theory is that weak ties allow, you know, for this innovation at a scale that, so strong ties are when you have your friends and family, like people you interact with every day. I
yes.
mean, I wouldn't call these weak ties necessarily anymore because I do interact with most of you, you know, any day I want to. But it's exactly that bringing it together, the strength of weak ties in terms of, and again, it's Doc, everything's compromised too. I understand that. You know, Cam can speak on this as well. Like everything's compromised. It's just we kind of, and again, I don't want to interject here. Jamin, you had your hand up. I apologize.
Oh, no, no problem. I hadn't actually completed my point and question, which is that given the power of spaces, and given that there are often a lot of people on spaces, the vast majority of whom are just listening, they're just audience, they don't have a crack at the microphone, would spaces present an opportunity for creating after parties? Like, let's say there's 5,000 people on a space, 99.99% of whom can't talk, right? And so we start a space. I mean, we somehow put out there, hey, there's an after party where we can all talk with each other. Perhaps
Well, if I may, Jamin, not to interrupt, but I just want to add to what you're saying. So this is what Victor and Brett and I were working on, and Gavin as well, like for the past, I don't know, half year, and Victor's done the lion's share of the work. But there's a way, like Brett's dream is that we will simulcast, right? And I think that's where Doc Time and Sienna kind of are on other parts of the balance beam here, is that we're not limiting ourselves to one space. There is like I know Doc Time, we worked with StreamYard with Samuel. There was other versions of that, but there is a way where we actually don't have to like pick and choose, and people can interact. Like instead of even just breakout rooms, in the Zoom call, we could have breakout mediums in terms of, some people just really want to be on Discord. Some people just really want to be on Guilded or X. Yeah, Jamin, you got me.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, Sienna, I saw you nodding up and down, so I'm excited to follow up on that. And also, you've heard me mention the example of Paul Beckwith and global warming. I truly believe global warming is the hottest topic facing us right now. It's like a tsunami that we can see off in the distance. Say, oh, that's interesting. But let me get back to what I'm working on right now, because that's not really affecting me now. But at this point, wait a few months, and we're going to be inundated. And so now, what I just said, more and more people are tapping into that, and I would say like a critical mass of humanity is like really deeply concerned, freaking out, not knowing what they can do about it. And I think going to a Paul Beckwith after party is I believe at this moment, I think, I could be wrong, but I think that's the single most powerful thing that we can do, organizing a Paul Beckwith after party with full cooperation from Paul Beckwith. I mean, we can host it here. It'll be no skin off of his back, and only benefits to him and his audience come community. So I wanted to put out there, since Sienna, I know you're an amazing connector. Could we maybe follow up offline afterwards about how we might get through to Paul Beckwith? I have a feeling you're the kind of person who
1000%. I mean, honestly, if I could say one thing that I could really bring to the group, it's you tell me what event you want to plan, what or how, I don't know. Or connecting with people that you tell me who you want to connect with, and I'll connect with them, and I'll plan whatever event, you know, your after party. X would be a great place to host it. And yeah, I'd love to have an offline conversation on that.
Okay,
Truly,
let's
because
follow
that's,
up
yeah,
as soon as you're available after this meeting, let's follow up on that. And that gives me so much hope. Thank you, Sienna. I'm
Yeah,
so
yeah,
excited.
And you actually hit the word hope. Go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. See, Jamin, I've been already thought about like the solutions for you for what you have been talking about last week. So that was already on my mind. And if I may, that's what I was saying before. I would love to talk to you about how, because I've been in LA in the entertainment industry as an actor. That's how I paid my bills for the past 9 years. And especially on the independent level, because we don't have the resources that, the studios have and all that to get things done. But I did learn throughout this process the tricks about getting the right people on board and what solidifies these things and what gets them excited, and also the plan about how you might be able to execute it for Spaces, for StreamYard, which is actually you can stream at one time, I believe 4 to 6 different platforms in real time live.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. On top of other different metrics for you, Jamin. So I don't know if you want me to be a part of that conversation, and if it's not on your heart and mind, I don't want to put myself on that dynamic, but I think that I came up with some ideas for you. And if I am invited, I would like to at least offer them up and see if it works for you guys.
I'm going to say the hope is going to be more important on that conversation than me, Jamin. So
Well,
yes, you're going to want both of us there.
Let's get the 3 of us together as soon as possible after this meeting and make it happen, because I really believe that I see a Paul Beckwith after party to Chizzy, the relationship of those two, as analogous to the guy in Tunisia who set himself on fire to starting the Arab Spring. I think there is an Arab Spring of global warming revolution just brewing. It's just waiting for a little pinprick and boom, the whole thing will explode. And I think Paul Beckwith is the Tunisian produce vendor in this particular analogy, passing the
And also, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Also, Tad, whenever he's able to come, I know he's really busy, but he's a part of a different international organizations. Environment is like one of his top things. So he's also he used to work for Time Magazine. He goes back and forth between DC. He happens to know a lot of these people that are intrinsically tied to these things. So I do think that when you guys get a chance to meet up, he might be extremely instrumental in that direction, especially because environment is a top for you. His name's Tad Daly. And he wrote a book. His first book was on why nuclear war wasn't probably the best for humanity. And I believe he's also wrote a book on how the environment is probably the most pressing issue. And like you said, within the next 4 months, it'll happen so fast.
This is kind of his interview too, right? We'll just send him this video and Tad will understand what we're going for.
Oh yeah, he'll definitely understand. Yeah,
I love you,
sure.
I did want to just take a moment. Melissa, you don't have to speak, but the fact that you came in here, that validates everything we're doing as far as I'm concerned. When Melissa actually gets on screen and on camera, I know that we're doing something right. But we've got a girl squad here, Melissa.
Thanks, Mike. Love you. Hello, everyone. Yeah, sorry I'm late. But can I surf off the wave of what you guys are talking about?
Of course.
Because I just got some really great news, and this just really reinforcing that the time is now, that humanity is actually waking up and wanting change. And so a lot of my art is focused on environmental justice. And a friend of mine and I have been working on this project to honor Tokate, who is the killer whale who died in captivity in Florida in August last year. And I went to a memorial for her that was organized by the Lummi tribe up in the San Juan Islands. Was also honoring the marine biologist who worked with the orca whales for most of his life. He died the same month as Tokate, just a different day, which is really poignant. Anyway, the Washington State Ferries have just today given us permission to organize a whole event on the ferry where we're going to honor Tokate and the baby killer whale who died a few weeks ago. They're going to allow us to have people come and do a procession. They're going to stop the ferry. They're going to toot the horn 3 times. They're going to allow us to cast flowers into the water and actually also have speakers in the main terminal. So for me, this is just like moving the mountain, you know, it's huge, but it just speaks to what we're all feeling and saying and doing. And we're just all doing this in these different places, right? Different venues, different aspects of our gifts. And so I just wanted to celebrate that with you. And thank you all for being here. I just love hearing your voices, and Hope and Sienna, like in Italy, a beautiful town. Thank you for your beautiful divine feminine voices. And yes, please help help us launch the rocket. All right, much love. Thanks.
Thank you, Melissa. That's amazing. Okay, Jamin, do you want to take it for a second, and then I'm going to pass the feather another way here.
No, I think I basically said what I had to say. If anyone has any questions or comments or objections or disagreements, you know, bring it, because otherwise I think we're on to it.
Yeah.
I really do.
No, I was sorry. I was going to say, I'm going to yield to Mark here if he's ready.
Wow, I'm feeling it too. What an awesome pleasure to be here with all of you. We have a cast of characters with a lot of energy and spirit here. So I feel blessed. What I've heard makes me also feel hope. And the way my mind works, I'm seeing visions of the future that are hopeful. And I do think you're right, Melissa, the time is now. It feels like we are sort of in a hero's journey arc where it's like, you know, you're racing time and we're just going to make it as long as we get going. So what's coming for me, coming alive for me, is that the piece of the puzzle I might contribute is putting things in order. So when you're in an organism, things flow in a certain direction, and we call that harmony. And there's a sort of universal logic to organizing the new knowledge economy. And I do think Elon Musk is trying to approximate this with X. And when I have a thin slice of Elon and his energy, he does come off as a philosopher king to me, despite all the smear campaigns and everything else and the mistakes that he has made. He's one of our best hopes for having the personal discipline and the personal development to hold an immense amount of societal pain or global societal pain and not lose the heart-centered compassion or lose that philosophical wisdom. And it was really his biography as a kid that kind of sold me of what's baked into his subconscious, because that's where the dialectics are that determines the limits of your universal logic, your UQ. And so we need to base the global spirit, global economy on a universal meritocracy.
Mark, for the recording, do you want to explain UQ to Hope and Sienna a little bit there?
Yes, Sienna. This is our first time coming together here, but I'm sort of like speaking to the fact that these talented individuals have been sort of on this roller coaster with me and them for a while now. So yeah, UQ stands for Universal Quotient. And it's kind of like IQ, except it's measuring a different kind of knowledge processing that is wisdom-based. And a lot of people are struggling to figure out, well, what is wisdom? We can't even really define that as differing from, you know, just normal academic knowledge. But we're drowning in this normal kind of knowledge, this particularized knowledge, where we're in an information explosion, and it's literally causing anxiety because nobody can keep up. It's like literally doubling. So the kind of universal knowledge that we're trying to get into the organization of who we are as an essence, as a species, is actually simpler. It's an ephemeralization of that knowledge where we're finding the essential connections in that direction where we're harmonized. And that's organism. That's living connection. And so the piece that I think I'm supposed to play here is bringing in how to make living immanent connections, not only in the mode of being, but coming from the beingness of truth and authenticity, and explicating that in a way that we can share in a thinking way and a verbalized way, which is why all these meeting rooms are kind of important. And if we don't do that, then there are roughly 200 of these nuclear dialectics that will come into your conversation and literally rip you apart, because we don't know how to sublate or transcend these universal contradictions in a harmonious system that circles back on itself and completes itself in a sort of divine wisdom or an infinite kind of science. So whether you're secularist or spiritual, even that contradiction comes into harmony. And I feel like Elon, with his he has like a principled mastery, like the way he builds things, he has principled thinking. And that's how universal logic works. You start with a seed, and the potential that seed builds on itself is in a growing movement of complexity and concretion. So this is a bunch of fancy language to say that each one of us with our ideas and our projects actually has a certain order in a direction where we have maximal efficiency or efficacy. And I feel like what's coming into my mind is that Jamin's comes first because art and the after party appeals to sensuousness. And so in some ways, I feel like, yes, we need to get the after party going because most of humanity is stuck in that kind of logic. And you can speak universal logic at them all day, and it's pure form, and it's going to move past them, particularly since we're sort of getting into this Maslow's hierarchy emergency where AI is literally taking away all the jobs and people are having a hard time having basic needs met, so they can't rise to that transcendental level. So that needs to come first in terms of universal logic, and I'm really excited about that. And we have to do it right, though. So Sienna, Hope, like if you throw a bad after party, it has the opposite effect. You kind of like get a one chance shot to get all the right energy there. So that's why I think we're here right now, is to get your expertise to make sure we get a bunch of nerds in the room and we don't screw it up. We're really taking all these contradictions and bringing them together and sharing the divine idea in sensuous form and all this crazy logic. Then after that is religious form. So we have to get the religious groups going. And then after that is the abstract scientific groups. And then after that is the abstract philosophical groups. And then the concrete philosophical groups, which is true wisdom, where we can start to think in that harmony in a self-determining way, where every single agent is omnicentric, human-centric, and they can hold that self-policing and a new kind of ethics. So in terms of priorities, I think, yeah, I'm very interested in the after party and having potentially two of them, like we talked about, Jamin. One is the canary in the coal mine one with the Zoom rooms and the X rooms, and then having this like universal logic kind of one, the true chizzy, where if we do ruin this reputation and we get a couple of nuclear dialectics in there and we don't sublate them fast enough, then we have a backup one where people are like, oh, this was the real after party. And then like, oh, people feel okay getting rid of that first one. But if we master the first one, we might not need the second one. So that's just a contingency plan to get the first one moving very quickly. And I guess to kind of finish off my turn here, how we have the meetings themselves also requires a universal form. So whenever we come together, we have a form of meeting and then a content of meeting, at least in my opinion. I could be wrong, but what Doc is saying kind of resonates a lot, that everybody's voice needs to be heard. And Sienna, what you said at the end there resonated so strongly with me, that there is a sense of belongingness, a sense of unconditional forgiveness, a sense of this homeostasis that comes when you sublate opposites in this transcendental movement that we're calling sublation. That's the missing essence of wisdom piece, and I can teach that.
Mark, before you pass that, do you want to just define sublation for posterity?
Yeah, so basically, sublation is the essence word for the movement of wisdom itself by taking dualisms and bringing them into non-dual. So you're basically causing syntheses of opposites, but not only in a horizontal way, where opposites become moments of each other, they flow with each other as essentially belonging inseparably to each other, but there's also a vertical belonging, and that vertical belonging is the really hard thing to do, and that's the direction, the sort of divine direction that sort of circles back around and completes the knowledge cycles. So when we organize the new knowledge economy, we need to do it in both those ways. And we have to have people who can do that have high UQ, not just high IQ. If you build a meritocracy in IQ, then you get people that are really good at processing with sheer horsepower in particular knowledge, and they can kick your butt. but it doesn't mean they're wise, which is why they can hurt people. So this UQ can be learned by any IQ because it's simpler and it's a fractal holonic repeating process that once you grasp the triads and the imminent movement of them, children can learn it, anybody can learn it. And that's why we're going to get these multiplier effects in the education system that will grow very, very quickly because it's like a compounding. So basically, we have to reorganize the entire educational system, but that's going to require bringing human beings together. So the first element of this, before we even get to the after parties, like figuring out how do you get people to get together and not rip apart in organizing the after parties. So that's where we have to get at least the basic universal contradictions sublated within this initial core team. And then having the form of the meeting itself hold people together, even when they don't know how to sublate. And that's what we're experimenting with now in what's called ever living meetings. And I feel like, Sienna, what came to mind too really quickly was that for some reason you might put us in touch with Elon somehow and get him to do the ever living meetings in the X platform mega fast. And this will solve the form of the coming together of people who haven't learned universal logic yet by managing time in a new kind of time economy. And we're running 2 experiments every day, 7 in the morning and 7 at night, Mountain Standard. And we get the feedback off of the people who have participated. And then we do a 12-hour innovation cycle and try and implement the solutions by the next group. And then we kind of just keep doing this circle to have a massive innovation process that is perpetual and sucks in more and more people to then begin working in these wisdom teams. And then roughly there's 64 wisdom teams right now, at least in this New World Spirit part. And we're going to be bringing hopefully 600 people together to process long-term, short-term, and intermediate goals to basically revamp all of the institutions in society in this sort of divine order.
When you're ready, my friend, you are raising hands. I want you to, yeah, when you're ready. But it'll be Jamin and then Hope and then Sienna. But go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, so that's basically where I'm at now is we've gotten the model to a point where we're getting like effective 9 out of 10s, and people are being raised roughly if they're at a 4 when they come into the meeting. It's coming up to about a 6, at least a 2-point increase, unless we test a new idea that's like really hard. And so there's a really hyper refined way to have the form of the meetings, and then the content will eventually be on the universal logic itself and bringing those together in a universal story of being that will complement the after party, I think, Jamin. So that's basically the direction where I think would be efficacious. And if anybody knows how to rocket launch that, then that's sort of the piece that I feel like I can contribute.
Well, Doc Time's been throwing some things in chat, but Jamin, take it and then pass it to Hope and Sienna.
Oh, is there something in the chat?
Yeah, there's the chat there too. Don't worry. But Jamin, go ahead, my friend.
Okay, awesome. So first of all, if I'm going to speak to everyone in this room, if you think Mark is a genius, you're not alone. I think he's a genius too. And I don't understand everything he says, but I know he's right. That's kind of where I'm at.
That's because it takes one to know one. I appreciate that a lot, but I think everybody in this room right now is probably at the same caliber. So
as I said, Jamin, no, I solved this problem about not being able to understand Mark by bringing together people that are smarter than me so they can help me explain this.
That's collective intelligence right there, period. But I just wanted to say very briefly that, you know, in having spoken with Mark for several hours during the past week, where I've kind of netted out, or we've kind of netted out, is when we finally get Paul Beckwith in the room, and now with Sienna's and Hope's superpowers, I am just so
we have all our beautiful feminine raising their hands right now, Jamin, when you're ready.
Well, if you let me finish, I'll finish very quickly. All I wanted to say is that with their superpowers, we're going to have that meeting with Paul very soon. And when we're in the Zoom meeting with Paul, I'm going to say, look, Paul, here's the idea. Watch party, after party. And at the beginning of the after party, at the very beginning, just say, look, there's 3,000 of you here. I'm kind of blown away. We've got several Zoom rooms opening up for different kinds of activities, possibly the most important of which are the Ever Living meetings hosted by Mark and his team or community. That's going to be in Zoom room 2. By default, everyone first arrives at Zoom room 1. And then there'll be a bunch of other Zoom rooms. And different Zoom rooms will attract different people. But I believe the gravity of universal logic will, eventually suck everyone into Zoom Room 2 and the ever living meetings. That's kind of my vision, my hope, based on all this. And with that, I pass the feather. Thank you.
Hope, go ahead, and then it's Melissa and Sienna.
Thank you so much. Mark, it's a pleasure to meet you. It would have been really cool to talk to you like a long time ago. I completely understand everything that you're talking about, as all the way from like UQ, because what you're talking about is what I've been trying to talk about, but usually by myself. But I kind of saw how so many different things were going to unfold. I mean, I even knew what was going to happen to X 2 years prior. Like, I mean, this is and exactly how it's going to be used, and exactly how it will be used also 10 years from now. So, and that's not just the only thing. I've seen how all the companies work and what the overall arc is, the entire web. So I hear you on so many different things. And what happened is that I ended up seeing the different levels that will be, because, one man can't do all this stuff by themselves, however, what their resources are, even one family, even 10 families, no matter how much they want to. But I saw different aspects that was going to be falling out, all the way from how autonomy was going to play out. And so a lot of these different things, like my documentary on suicide prevention and human thriving, One More Day, was going to be about how to show what to do and so that humanity can get from the suffering to the thriving, especially when it comes to losing jobs to autonomy, but actually transcending into new jobs and creating new sphere and being more ambient with I call it AI, but ambient intelligence, as far as in the level of learning how to be more proactive and instead of reactive as a society, and that to get ahead of these things so that you can work in tandem and then take things to the next scale. But I also saw what was going to happen with the economy. I also saw digital and otherwise. I saw so many different scopes. And so what I did was I created 10 projects that alleviate all these things. And Life Fest was just one of them. It was just like how you say about the after party, why it was put first. That's why it was put first. And actually the two that I'm knocking out right now, before June, is on top of that scale too. As far as the educational system, already started remapping that with Ambitious Academy and Everise and Hopewell Elementary. So it's like all the way from K all the way through past graduate, also on an international level, and then also transitioning in between those who would otherwise go to the UN, and that transitionary leaders and youth as well. So I think we don't have enough time here to really talk about the scopes, but I think that you might be interested in some of the sitting down, just having a conversation about like where you're at with everything. And I can go over a little bit about where I thought everything was, and we can discuss where other people thought, what they wanted to do with the world, and how we can be more of a complementary base. And that's why I was actually excited about the time. The time has already begun, as far as humanity being able to, for the first time in history, be in a place where we can have things like world fullness and world peace. And I do have a structure for that as well. Very practical, very, first principles. I really think that if we start from the smallest up, it's the most important. I do also want to talk a little bit about the after party. I know that you guys wanted to do maybe 2. It's always good to have a backup plan, but the way that I've seen things go, and this is for so many different things in reality, and especially for the companies, the first model that comes out, alpha and beta, they're not always the greatest. I believe that we could actually scale it to 12, or 8, where we are within months wise as far as the year, but we could do like 8, and that would be like 1 for each month. And we will learn a lot and get better throughout the time. But I think if we nail the first one, that's that's the first precedence of how high it can go for the next and the next. And I can
It's
talk
proof of
further about,
concept, right, Hope?
yeah, as a proof of concept, and how that might actually be very feasible. There was a group that I was a part of during the pandemic time. Some people call it the fire scare, some people call it pandemic, however you saw the experience that the world went through. There was a group that was hosting, they couldn't meet all the time for a neurological conference on BCIs. And for those who might not know, that's brain and computer interface, and the companies that are working on those. And so they would have like get together all the different companies, and they would talk about where they were. There is invasive and non-invasive, which is brain and computer interfaces that would go into like Neuralink, that would be evasive. You would cut open your skull and attach to your neurons, and so that's evasive. Non-invasive is like when you put on a beanie and it already is laced with some of the sensors that can read.
It picks up like waves
your
and so on and so forth. Hope, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, and so that's what they were doing. But what they actually did was they actually scaled, because I don't think StreamYard was really full up yet. So they actually had all the breakout rooms where everybody brought a drink, everybody was able to get together, even though it was more on a Zoom, and they were actually also able to handle the people, so they understood how what platforms to use and etc. to be able to keep. So it doesn't crash and etc. stuff like that. So that might be something interesting you guys might want to talk about as far as how to organize each thing to make it as we know what real parties kind of feel like, especially if we're doing like the virtual. And I don't know if you guys want to go in tandem with where Apple Pro is at, or where Meta is at, or where Oculus is at, as far as some people being more part of immersive.
Given the time restraints, Hope, and the fact that you've raised 3 hands, we might want to put a pin in that for next week, perhaps.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see it. My screen doesn't show it. Okay, so
no, it's
anyway,
okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to put some of these. This is kind of like just a little bit of what is it, like seeds on the ground, a little bit of
As Doc Time said, he took 5 pages of notes from last week, and this week is gonna. I re-listen to these things too, right? It it has to happen. Sienna, did you throw your hand down for a reason?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short. I've actually been taking notes so I don't just ramble. Mark, so nice to meet you. I'm very excited about UQ. I'd never heard that before. I mention IQ and EQ interchangeably in our house because I have 3 kids, and my husband's more of the scholastic type. He's like, you got to get good grade, you got to, and I'm more of the EQ person. I'm like, you have to be a good person. You have to kind of look outside of yourself and take care of the planet and other people. And so, I mean, I guess it makes us a good mix, but I really like that. And I'd like to talk to you more about that. And I wanted to see, Jamin, if since Mark is so interested in the after party, if we could invite him to the call. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but yeah, because I think between the 4 of us, we could probably, we could plan one this weekend. My gosh, seriously. It'd be so that's the kind of thing. You tell me what you want to accomplish, and I'm like, let's just do it, because honestly, if not now, when? And if not us, who?
Thank you, Sienna.
So Mark, there was just 2 other quick things I wanted to mention. Mark, Elon is looking for ideas, and he is looking for, specifically, I think, for teams of people who are collectively coming together to discuss ideas that they know will resonate with him. And love him or hate him, I mean, it really does. I think it's irrelevant. He is the person right now who is having the most impact on the future of humanity. He just is. So let's approach him. I was actually on a space the other night specifically talking about groups of people breaking off into splinters and with ideas for Elon. And those are the conversations that are happening on X right now, because it's like, listen, this is one man with one very specific vision, and a lot of other people can help him, but he is one man. So the more ideas we can kind of come forward with and say, listen, you have the platform, the persuasion, the power, the resources, you have all these things at your disposal. We have the ideas, and then he'll start a new, and I'm certain of it because I mean, this is part of my path. I'm certain of it because that's the information I received.
Sienna, what have I said? But we might actually succeed.
We will succeed. I've already seen that we will. So Hope, as you have seen, is a quantum level thinker. You tell her the problem, she is finding the solution real time. And I don't care how big the problem is, she is finding the solution real time. So yeah, I think we can solve things very, very quickly. And all the spaces that Hope and I have co-hosted at this point, one of the primary focuses is we are solutions based. Whatever the conversation is, because they ebb and flow, but instead of focusing on issues, focusing on anything ideological, I think I mean I always just throw that right out the door when that comes up in any conversation. I'm like, just none of that matters. And I was in politics for a very long time, and I was I mean, my gosh, I was like obsessed with political science. I was just obsessed with all things like policy and what drives
We'll have
people
to
and what
make a
gets
space
changed.
where you actually get to tell
Yeah,
that story again, Sienna.
I'm sorry.
No, it's
I
okay.
told you
You're
I was
raising
gonna
hands
ramble.
though, and I just want to remind us that we're recording.
Yeah, I think I hit all my points except for Mark. I'm going to forward you a group that you should join on X, okay? Because it's it's right up your alley.
I would love that. Thank you so much.
Jamin, I believe it's you, and then Melissa, and then Doc Time.
No, wrong order. Melissa, then Jamin, then Doc Time.
All right, Melissa, then Jamin, then Doc Time. Melissa, keep going.
Yeah, great stuff, you guys. I just wanted to read something from Michael Mead. I don't know if all of you know his work. He lives in the Pacific Northwest. He's a mythologist, kind of following in the line of Joseph Campbell's work. And I'm a storyteller, and I find stories really important, just like art's a really important medium for transformation and healing. So I just wanted to share this because following on the heels of what you shared, Mark, I think this is quite poignant and perfect. At each critical juncture or time of change, the story of our soul tries to break through and become more conscious. Since myths speak to each soul differently, they can deliver to each listener the psychic facts and healing factors they most need. In that sense, stories are a form of medicine that can operate at the deepest levels of soul and self. To be modern can mean to have fallen out of story or to be living in opposing stories, as many people believe at this time. Yet stories are how we understand our lives and how we make meaning of even the most overwhelming and tragic aspects of life. So I just wanted to share that. And then just jumping to this UQ, I've been working with Richard Rudd, who's English. I don't know if you guys know about the Gene Keys and the work he's been doing, and the Dream Arc, which is really powerful work. And in the Gene Keys, he talks about SQ, which is spiritual intelligence, which I think maybe is similar to what you're talking about, Mark, the UQ.
Oh yeah, definitely 100%. Actually, me and this guy named Brett Warshawski, we're going to try and translate the Gene Keys into the universal logic because it's already there. It's just not in the immanent system yet, but you're nailing it.
Okay, cool. And then I just have a question for all of you, because we all know how to throw, I guess, a great party in person, right? Food, good conversation, nice environment. How does one throw a great party online?
Melissa, I thought I was doing it. I'm so joking. No, these are questions that need to be asked.
I'll jump in just briefly. I know that there's another hand, but on X, there's actually lots of spaces that just talk about that issue. It's like how to host the best space, and it's like endless. I mean, you can just get free training real time all the time on there on any topic you can come up with. It's I don't know, Mark and Hope, if you have had that experience, but it's like free. It's like free training
So-
on any topic you can come up with.
Yeah, the people that are forefront on creating some of the best spaces, but like I said, this one is gonna be more of like, I kind of anticipated like a StreamYard thing, kind of like how all the platforms would be complementary on it, so that so like there's different aspects of doing it. With spaces, you're pretty much just linking into StreamYard anyway, and you're linking into one of the other platforms so that you could go live whilst also showing a video or showing playing music or different aspects. What we're gonna have the opportunity is to a little bit more than that, and that's what I think the blueprint of what the neurological conference was doing, because they really were like hosting parties with everybody kind of like bringing their drinks and like even just creating an atmosphere where people are able to have like the virtual like food table, so to speak, and the music, and like the way you could do it is like, you know, if you have like a warehouse and you have like each different section of the party, like if you have 3 floors, right, and you have 2 different DJs, right, you have like one that's more hip hop, and you have the other one that's more rock and roll or country or EDM. But we have that same ability with breakout rooms as far as creating different types of atmospheres that are themed that people can pop in and out of, so that they could flow naturally, to be able to learn more people, be able to interact in different ways, and be able to vibe and kind of really feel that sense of a party. But I didn't want to go in too deep because we only have 30 minutes left. But I definitely want to connect with people afterwards in regards to the after party, in regards to everything that
We're
Mark
gonna
is
have
talking
the
about.
afterglow after this. Don't worry, Hope.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely do the afterglow, but in a way
I
that
know that
maybe
your time is limited. Understood, but for posterity, you're on a roll. Don't worry. When you're ready, pass it to Jamin. Unless you are ready now, I suppose.
yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna cut it short because I do mean like I think that this stuff needs to be talked about like way more in depth than what we would do for like a quick meeting or whatever. Like some of the things that I wanted to talk about that I think that will make much more sense once I is given a time to like really actually fully get into it. But I know that we have a time constraint here, so I'm gonna
Well,
absolutely
this is
go ahead.
more like for introducing people. Every connection that's been made here, and I hope that you guys have been taking notes, and I know that you guys have, but essentially you'll follow up with each other afterwards. But we don't need to like belabor that. I'm not trying to cut you off, Hope. That's not the point. I do want to get to Jamin's hands. I know Jack came
We're
up.
in agreement. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying I'm trying to toss him the mic because I know that this is just for us
You've
to
got
talk
this.
very
You've got
quickly.
this, young lady. Okay, Jamin, go ahead. Doc time. You have raised your hand a number of times and not come back up. But if you want to come back up, please anytime. But Jamin, go ahead. And then
We'll
Jack's raised
pass.
his hand as well.
Okay, assuming Hope was complete there. If not, carry on, Hope. I just wanted to make a couple comments about how I envision, for what it's worth, how I envision the after parties exploding. Okay. So we do the Paul Beckwith after party, and I'm more confident than ever that it's going to happen. I'm just like, my world has just shifted thanks to you all, literally all of you. Once we do that, here's what's going to happen. So, you know, order of magnitude, 3,000 people are going to show up, right? Plus or minus an order of magnitude. The exact number doesn't matter. But it does per doc time. But anyway, we'll work that out. But, you know, order of magnitude, 3,000 people show up. Okay. They're going to call their friends because we're going to do it right. I mean, with Sienna here and her superpowers, my goodness, it's going to be one heck of a party. With Mark here and his superpowers, one heck of a party. No matter how you slice it, one heck of a party. People are going to be calling their friends and relatives and saying, get your butt on here. I don't even have time to sell you on it. Get your butt on here. I'm going back to the party. Goodbye. Bam. And it's going to be like a 1970s phone tree. People are going to call people, and friends are not going to let friends miss out on the Paul Beckwith after party. because it affects us all. It's again, it's the Arab Spring waiting to happen at planetary scale. That's one exponential.
Mark's not allowed to let himself on fire, Jamin. Mark's not allowed to let himself on fire.
All right, whatever. Now and Marco knows this to be true because we did the after party for Harmonic Convergence, and people showed up and they never left. Okay, so it's truly going to be the ever living after party. It's never going to end. It's only going to grow exponentially, and everyone's going to hear about it. Everyone's going to want in on it. Everyone's going to come in, and it's just going to go crazy. And at some point, it's going to be like, bring your own Zoom room, because the 10 Zoom rooms that we launched it with are now bursting. They're all maxed out with 100 breakout rooms each. Yes, that's 1,000 rooms total. And it's still not enough because so many people are pouring in. So BYOZ, bring your own Zoom room. And, suddenly you're going to have hundreds of Zoom rooms, and the after party is going to be spread across all of them. So that's one exponential. Okay. Well, guess what? This is not going to be lost on Joe Rogan or Joe Schmo, the YouTuber with all of 37 followers. Everyone's going to want their own after party for their own YouTube videos, their own podcasts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I rest my case, passing the feather. Love you all so much. So happy.
Jack, my friend, welcome up.
Yeah, well, actually, Jamin kind of answered my question, because I'm kind of wondering more about the specifics, and I just got in here, so maybe the people that were talking before were getting more into that. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to do this after party and you want people to come, you got to figure out how to make it entertaining and fun. And it sounds like you've spent some work on that. And so, yeah, but that's it.
Jack, you're right on time consciousness. Don't worry. You're right on time consciousness.
So that's all I got to say. I was just kind of curious about how you were going to do that. And I got at least some of my questions answered.
There is the preceding recording too, Jack. So don't worry. There's lots of fodder for you to check out. Doc, I feel like you've come up and down a number of times. Do you want to kind of check in here before I'm going to start winding this down, or at least the recording part, in the next 20 minutes, and we'll do the afterglow. But Doc, if you have a thing to say, I would love to hear from you.
No, this has been a good, enlightening experience, and there's lots of good ideas. And it really takes implementing those ideas to see how they work, and then making the decisions rather than presupposing how they're going to work. And Jamin, if you can get 3,000 people, that would be pretty awesome. If we can get 300 people, that would be pretty awesome. And so setting high sights is great, but however many people show up, it'll be an awesome party for those of us who are there.
I love it. Jamin, before I pass it to you, Michael or James, do you want to jump in? I know that, Michael, you've been here for half the conversation.
I'll just jump in and say hello. Sorry I was late. I haven't got
No worries, James. Don't worry.
I haven't got enough of the grasp on the conversation going on, so I won't comment. I'll just pass on and say hi to all.
All right, Michael, you came up. Do you want to jump in here too, as we're kind of winding down the recording before the afterglow? You're on mute, my friend. Still on mute. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. One whale of a party, pardon the pun. Can't wait. So, congrats on all the good progress today. Thank you all for being here. And I can't wait to see it implemented. I'll be glad to help in any way I can. Thank you so much. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know if Stan, if you have speaking capabilities, please, I would love to hear you as well. I will put Jeff on the spot perhaps afterwards if he's available, but Stanley, go ahead.
Well, sure. What's important to me in something like what we're doing here is to have a topic. We have nothing to talk about. We have nothing to talk about. So I was sad to join Mark's meeting last night, and there was nothing to talk about. And Marco was there for a few minutes, and he left. There wasn't anything to talk about. So I would be happy to talk to any one of you to figure out what we can do to make things have more stuff to talk about. Jamin's got a
appreciate
particular
that.
idea, okay, and that's a thing to talk about. And if we have a meeting around that, well, then we can talk about that. If we have a meeting around, we might have something to talk about, maybe, if we maybe think of something, then that's not very useful. So anyway, but thank you for inviting me. And
No, thank you for being present, Stan. Honestly, if you've sat here the entire time, I feel like I monitor that sometimes, right? In fact, if people leave and people that I trust and really appreciate, then I'm like, okay, well, I've done something wrong, or if I've had to, yeah. But you've stayed, so I very much appreciate that.
Well, I stayed because my next meeting is not for another 20 minutes. So this is something I wish we could do, which is to get together. That's something that is worth getting together for, is that get a bunch of people who wish to get together. And my programs, I run a daily conversation, and it has no topic, except it's based on what happened at Humanity Rising that day, and that's very topic clear, usually. So there's 850 Humanity Rising episodes. Most of them have one or more topics. So there's generally something to talk about in the conversation group afterwards. And I would like to see us build on that. And I have an idea for that I will be attempting to tell people about as I flesh it out. But the idea is basically to have a global calendar. We have had all these interesting and far-flung and well-attended conference seminars, whatever, annual things, and they're great, but we need to have some way of knowing in advance when they're going to happen and what they're going to be covering. And so we had a huge calendar made of all the things that people want to tell other people about. And we had some really brilliant AI figure out how to keep each person's ability to be at these things organized. And that would be very, very difficult. So it's not something that what I'm talking about that's easy to do. It's not easy to do. We could have a calendar that would have maybe 15 or 20 organizations that have open meetings for the public. But to have thousands, it'll take a lot more work. And how do we get, an AI educated enough to know how 8 billion people want to interact with each other? So thank you very much.
Jamin had said something about, like folk or Doc Time or Jamin, one of the two, but collective human intelligence first, and then we'll do the collective human and super intelligence. But heard.
Yeah, we need to know each other.
Yes.
And I was disappointed to come here and find these nice people, very intelligent people that I don't know. I have no idea what they're interested in. And so I open other networks for the purpose of letting people put their bios in there and what topic, what their URLs, if nothing else, the URL for where we find what they have to offer or what they're interested in talking about. So yeah, if you send me, any of you, if you send me a name of what it is that you're doing and a URL for it, I'll add it to other networks. And I'll try to figure out how to classify it, because one of my fun things to do is categorizing things.
If you want, Stanley, this is actually just for posterity, but the Other Networks is a site where you've been doing this for time, right?
Other Networks is now about 4 years old. My other website that uses the same structure is called Wikidelphia. It's about 13 years old now, and Wikidelphia covers Philadelphia with about 5,000 pages of what's going on there. And unfortunately, I can't spend much time with Wickadelphia because I'm putting all my time into Humanity Rising and the effort that Other Networks has to catalog all the episodes of Humanity Rising and all the 1,600 people who have presented on it. So, yeah.
I would encourage people to look into the chat and find links that have been put down there and make these connections. But we're here. Jeff,
The
I
most
don't know
interesting
if,
thing
oh,
I
go
put
ahead,
in
Stanley.
it is a link to my special collections. And that's sort of my latest idea of how to organize the categories on Other Networks.
Yeah, and Stanley, did you put your website in the chat here today?
Yes, I'll do it again.
Okay. Yeah, because that's what you're doing. I mean, there should be a whole lot more people paying attention to what you're doing and feeding into it. For all the people that are here, from me who has looked at his website, it is definitely worth the time to take a look at. There's just a ton of information there, and it's pretty much all really good information. In fact, I guess I'll go so far as to say great.
Okay, well, thank you.
I'm going to jump in real quick before we go to Mark, because Stanley, you said I was at the meeting last night and I left too. But there was a reason I left was because cats knocked over my modem and it takes like 15 minutes to reset. So otherwise I would have finished off. Because I really like the idea of the ELMs and what we can do with that, the ever living meetings. So I'm in till we get them popular. And that's handing a feather to you, Mark.
I really appreciate you saying that, Stan. Stan, I got you guys, Marco. Yeah, Stan, I think we need to talk at length a little bit. I just got all these court battles and stuff like that, but I love categorizing too. And if you already have a system of categories, that's kind of what the universal logic is. It's literally 88 metaphysical categories that repeat themselves in 3 other forms for the sum total of all human knowledge.
Okay, yeah, well, mine's simpler than that.
Well, it starts off with the base category, and then there's 3 top level categories of logic, nature, spirit, which is the sum total of all human knowledge. So I'm very curious if through all your amazing efforts, if you've sort of approximated that same absolute syllogism.
We need to talk. We definitely need to talk, and you can see what I'm doing, and I can also
give me a second
introduce
chance, please, Stan.
Oh, you didn't burn me out yet.
Okay.
And what I wonder is, you know, that when you're speaking about things that I don't understand yet, or I don't know the definitions, I'll get lost. So you're obviously very well thought. Okay, you have deep thinking that's going on there, and a lot of observation, and I don't know where it's leading. So I'll wait to try to figure that out. And what we can do is to try to have a conversation. And if you need to have 10 conversations, that's fine. I mean, we might be better off with 10 5-hour, 1 hour conversations than 10 5-hour conversations. Yeah. So that we'll see how that works out. You have my email.
Yes, please make the connections, because I can't even appreciate or express my gratitude for the people in this room. Jamin, would you like
Mike,
to
you could circulate a list of websites for all these people. That would be
I will.
I've
got I've got points of contact with pretty much everyone in this room. We will do that. Jamin, just for posterity, we are coming up on the 2 hours, and I like these bookended recordings because, as I said, I mean, I get to share them with friends and family, whatever, to prove that I'm not insane. But you know, it allows us to go into the afterglow. But I feel like you should wind us out here, my friend, Jamin.
Very good. Well, I characterized last week's meeting, The Start is Near, number 11, episode 11, as the most high level meeting I'd ever been in. This meeting is right up there with it. But building on the foundation. So this meeting stands on the shoulders of the giant of episode 11. This is episode 12 right here, right now. And whereas that was the highest level meeting I'd ever had, this has been the most productive because we have moved the ball down the field. We've got momentum. I just feel like we're the Brazilian national team in one of the great attack formations of 1958 when they beat Sweden for the World Cup. This is it right here. So, I mean, if you haven't seen the movie Pele, watch it. We're now on track to getting Paul Beckwith in here and brainwashing his Canadian ass to doing the exponentially growing after party that will change history and cool the planet. So I'm just in love with life right now, in love with humanity, in love with you all, and just so excited to carry on. So with that, I pass it right back to you, Mike, and
Yep. I will just say for this, that was almost I don't know, an hour and 40 minutes, I believe. So I will say strengthen the journey well. We can jump right into the afterglow where I can pretend to stop driving a race car. And we can keep making these connections and keep having the conversation. But again, we have to be cognizant of the fact that as we're pulling, all you amazing people together, these recordings are purposeful and fulfilling in terms of introducing, people who aren't ready to like hang 10, like a surfing metaphor, with us at this moment. So yes, no, I assume that the afterglow is going to pop off with fireworks and everyone can interrupt each other and kind of run over each other or whatever. But in terms of pre-Ramshod, I would suggest that we kind of clip the recording here and then get into the afterglow, Jamin, or the after party as we're doing.
Sounds good. Thank you all for being here. Thanks everyone for watching the recording or watching the broadcast. And we look forward to seeing you. Everyone is welcome here at the block party. And to get the URL easily, just go to radish.org, and on the homepage is the link to our weekly Friday block parties, which go for 24 hours. And the Start Is Near podcast happens from 12 to 2 Pacific time every Friday. I love you all. We'll see you in the afterglow. Thanks, everybody.